Hello and welcome to Conversions Using Identity Ratios. In this video, we'll be using U.S. customary metric and then jumping across the pond and doing U.S. customary to metric and back and forth stuff. So some basics. One thing to remember, hopefully you have your packet or you have these things written down somewhere. Page 91 is what we're going to use in our packet, so make sure you have that handy because this will not be on every page. So we're just going to kind of go through some intro, just some basics. So the first one we're going to do is 7,040 yards to miles, and I'm going to use that, this business when I do all of these. So that's what you want to reference, and that's the top part of your packet. So when we do conversions, we always start with what they give us. So we are going to start with 7,040 yards. And I always think of, because we're going to be using identity ratios, right? Ratios we write as fractions. So we want to write everything in terms of a fraction. So if I want to make this 7,040 a fraction, I simply put it over 1. And now I have something to start with. And I always use that as my guide. So I know that I want to end in miles. Well, I don't have miles, I have yards. So we got to think about, okay, I want to get rid of these yards. And if you can think back to when you multiplied fractions, we know we can reduce numerator to denominator, right? Top to bottom. So if I have yards here, to get them to go away, I want to put them on the bottom. Because now, top to bottom, let me change colors for effect here, they'll cancel out. And that's what I want to have happen, okay? So I don't want that to quite yet. So when you look at that paper, you got to say, okay, I have yards. What can I change yards to? And according to that sheet, the only thing we can do is say that 1 yard is 3 feet. Okay, so now my yards cancel out. And I'm kind of a stickler about this because this now shows you your labels. I am now in feet. I don't want to be in feet. I want to be in miles. So I need to do another conversion. So again, if I want to get rid of feet, I put them in the opposite spot. So now, top to bottom, so they'll cancel out top to bottom. And now if you look at your sheet, I know that I want miles and I can go feet to miles. So 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So that means my feet will now cancel out. You now have no feet. And your label is in miles. So once you have the label that you want, now you can go ahead and do the math. So I just go left to right. I start with my 7,040. The next number I see is in the top. If it's in the top, I multiply. The next fraction, the number here is in the bottom. So I will divide by 5,280. So the top you multiply, bottom you divide, and when you put those together, you will end up with 4, and then your label is miles. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit more quickly through the rest of them. But the next one, we're going to go backwards, and we're going to go miles to yards. So when you start with this one, again, what they give you, 4 miles. And then you let what you start with, let your labels drive you. So if I want to get rid of miles, I put them down here. I look at the paper. The only thing I can do is 1 mile is 5,280 feet. And that allows my miles to cancel out. And you might want to grab a red pen or something and use that to cross out the labels as you finish them. But now, again, I don't want feet either. So if I put feet on the bottom, it makes them go away. And I know there are 3 feet in 1 yard. So that makes my feet go away. And now I'm in yards, which is what I want. So again, when I do the math, I start with 4. 5,280 is in the top, so I multiply. 3 is in the bottom, so I divide. And I end up with 7,040 yards, right? Do not forget your label. The label is one of the most important pieces. All right. Now let's go to metric. Now, it is all about counting, and I'm actually going to show you 2 different ways. I'm going to do each problem 2 ways. And so the first way is counting, and I love it. So you can kind of see, and I use the abbreviations page, where you start and where you're going to go. So I'm going to just do kind of, I call it Becky Specials when I make things up out of my head. So if I have 35 centiliters, and I want to change that to hectoliters, okay? So what do I start with? I start with centiliters, and that's here. So I always put the X over where I start, and I want to go to hect. So if I think about it, I start in the cent, and I go one, oops, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So notice I went left 4 places. So if you think about back in the day when we did scientific notation, okay, so I started with 35, and if you can think about it, your decimal point's at the end. Well, we just talked about centiliters to hectoliter is left 4 places. So I move my decimal 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I would end up, I'm running out of space here, 0.0035 hectoliters, right? That's the counting method, and I love it. I use that almost entirely when I do it. But I will show you the other way for a problem or two just so you can see how it's done, if I can remember. Okay, liters to milliliters. So the counting way, if you look at your paper, and I'll just jump back real quick, liters to milliliters, well, liters are in the middle. Oop, bad color. Milliliters are over here. So 1, 2, I go 3 places to the right. So if I go right 3 places, I've got a 6 and a decimal point, 1, 2, 3. That's going to give me 6,000 milliliters. Now, the way to do it with fractions, we would still start with 6 liters. Now, when you look back at this table, the top level here kind of sets everything up in terms of compared to liters. So this 1,000 means 1,000 meters is 1 kiloliter. 100 meters is 1 hectoliter, that kind of thing, because 1 is the unit base. So 1, oh, wait a minute, am I backwards? A decimeter is 1/10 of a meter. So we would go, there's 1 meter is 10 decimeters. Yeah, the meters is always on top. Yeah, I was right. Oh, sorry. See, I don't do it very often, so I confuse myself. So the meters are always on top. That would be liters as well. So if we want to deal with liters and milliliters, that would be this one. So that means I would use 1 liter compared to 1,000 milliliters. So my conversion ratio, what did I say? 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. Well, I would need to flip it for this problem. So I would have 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. So you, again, can cancel out the liters, and that leaves you with 6,000 milliliters. The problem with this method is that everything is in terms of the main unit. So if I wanted to go from centimeters to hectometers, I would first have to go from centimeters to meters, meters to hectometers. It adds an extra step, which I don't like. So obviously, I'm done with that. No, I'm not. Oh, gosh. Oh, I did not plan very well. This is a little bit easier, shows you kind of some things. It breaks it down. I don't know that I use this, but it was on the paper, so I think I just wrote it down. But there you see 1 meter is at 10 decimeters, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So you can use it different ways. So 5 kilometers to centimeters. Is that on here? No, centimeters to kilometers is not on here. So if I want to do it the counting way, you have to go 5 units to the right. So, and hopefully you have your paper in front. So put the X on the kilometer and then count till you get to centimeters, and it's 5 places to the right. So that would leave me with 500,000 centimeters. All right, let's see if I can do it the other way without completely jacking this up, which could be impressive in its own right. So, are you ready? I don't know if I am. That's why I'm still talking to myself. So I've got 5, what is that? 5 kilometers. And I know that 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, right? So that right there makes my kilometers go away. Then I want to make my meters go away, but I've got to go meters to centimeters. And I know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So 1 meter is 100 centimeters. And that makes my meters go away. So I multiply across the top, and voila, 500,000 centimeters. So You get the same answer either way. It kind of just depends on what world you live in and what you like. I prefer to count because it's a whole lot easier. So liters to milliliters, I think we did this one already, didn't we? Liters is in the middle. You have to go to the right 3 places. And so you have 6,000 milliliters. Make sure you check that out and know what you're talking about, right? X on the liter, move 3 places to get to milliliters. Now we have decigrams to kilograms. So deci, okay, so it's kilo, hecta, deca, then it's the main unit, and then deci, centa, milli, right? Those are the things. So decigrams is here. Notice that it's just DG, not DAG. We want to go to kilograms. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going left 4 places. So if I have 1,500, that means my decimal point starts here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I end up with 0.15 kilograms. All right. And the last part of this is jumping across the pond. I always say it like that because of the conversion between U.S. customary and metric. Metric always makes me think of Europe. And it's funny, I listened to an audiobook today, and they totally talked about jumping across the pond. Now, they were flying, but I still thought it was funny. So these give you, and notice that every one of them has 2 different identity ratios. One that says 1 inch to how many centimeters, and this one has 1 centimeters to how many inches. So it's like that for all of them, that there's 2 for each one. Your answers will be slightly different, but in the same ballpark if you use a different one than I do. And that's totally okay when you work through these problems. So the first one, 5 inches to centimeters. And I'm going to kind of talk you through how I do them. So again, same process. You start with what they give you. And then if you want to get rid of inches, you're going to put that on the bottom. So inches, inches. And I don't know about you, but I prefer to multiply because, I don't know, I just think it's easier. So I always want to work, if I can put a 1 in the bottom, that makes life easier. So I will use 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters because then all I have to do is take 5 times 2.54 and I have myself an answer. And in this case, it is 12.7 centimeters. Quarts to liters. Again, what do they give you? They give me 4 quarts. I want to get rid of quarts, so quarts goes on the bottom. So when you go to quarts to liters, you look at the page. Yes, I can go straight from quarts to liters because we all know that sometimes you just can't. But I know that I could say 1 quart is 0.946 liters. Some janky looking numbers right there. That makes my quarts go away. I multiply 4 times 0.946. And I come up with an answer of 3.784 liters. Notice how I have labels on every one of my answers. Super, super important. And then I have yards to centimeters. So we've got 5 yards is what we're starting with. Okay, well, yards to centimeters doesn't work. But I know I need to get rid of yards first. And I can only go inches to centimeters. But you can do this 2 ways. You can go yards to meters and then meters to centimeters, or I don't know what's easier, but I can say that there is 1 yard is 3 feet. I know that, and that makes my yards go away. And I also know that 1 foot is 12 inches. And you may be thinking, well, fat lot of good, that does mean I'm still in inches. Well, that's all true. But now I know that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. And la-ti-da, now I'm in centimeters. So the nice thing about that is it's a simple multiplication problem. 5 times 3 times 12 times 2.54, right? These are all the numbers in my numerator. Since my denominator is all ones, it doesn't really matter. And I am left with 457.2 centimeters. And again, notice my beautiful label. And I believe, yep, that's my last problem. So there is kind of an overview on the intro to conversions.